Minä olen Iida, and welcome to the Salolampi dining room. I'm here today to do a quick, very efficient pulla recipe with you today so that you also have cardamom dough in less than 10 minutes, or maybe about 10 minutes. Let's get started. We started with a half a cup of butter melted on the stove, and to that warm butter, we're going to add 2 cups of milk, 2% milk, just like this. We'll let that mixture warm up. Meanwhile, in the mixing bowl, we're going to add 3 eggs, if you are like me, you probably have a very busy life as well. I have full-time employment. I serve as the dean here at Salolampi Language Village, and I have some other things going on in my life as well. So sometimes we need to expedite these old world procedures into new sort of methodology. So 3 eggs, half a cup of sugar, a liberal amount of cardamom, which in this case might be maybe a tablespoon, freshly ground if you have it available. So in the bowl, 3 eggs, half a cup of sugar, and then we'll dump in this nice, warm, but not too hot, butter and milk mixture. Notice that I'm using a 6-quart KitchenAid mixer, which is typically the size you may have in your home. You don't need to use a mixer if you don't have one, but if you have one, it sure is handy. I better take some coffee because all good Finnish cardamom bread must be made with coffee. At least in our systems. We'll sprinkle on about 3 teaspoons of yeast. And about 6 cups of flour. Last of all, we'll put some salt in, so the salt can work its chemistry at the very end. Pure table salt. Attach the mixer, however yours attaches, with the dough hook. And bring the mixer up. And we'll let it go on a low speed, a 2, maybe a 4, for just a few moments until the flour is incorporated. Notice that we have all the ingredients in together at once. Dough has formed a full ball. I'm going to stop it. Knead it just slightly with my hands, but from my experience and from what I know of Pulla, since it has eggs, it's a dough that doesn't need very much kneading. So if you feel like you really need to knead bread to get out some sort of angst or anger, this is not the dough to do. Choose some other dough for that. Pulla is done with love, so no rage baking on this one. But it's all incorporated. We're going to put it into a sprayed pan, not a floured pan, because we want pulla to taste delicious, tender, and flaky and lovely. Just the way we like to have it a lot here at the Finnish Language Village, Salolampi. where we not only eat it, but we like to teach people how to make it. And here's the dough. We're gonna let it rest for maybe an hour or two, and then we'll come back and form it. We could make it into long loaves of pulla, into korvapuusti, into voisilmapulla, or any other concoction we desire. Kiitos. Hey. All right, we'll just blend this together, just as you would in a pastry blender, which you can also do by hand. So chop the butter in. So it'll be nice and crumbly in the end, incorporating all ingredients. But without making a paste. So we're just going to leave it crumbly. Again, butter, brown sugar, the cinnamon, the cardamom, a little bit of kosher salt for good flavor, and then some the flour, which I mentioned earlier too, just to keep the filling in the buns. That looks like it's about done. Again, we're using the paddle attachment or a hand cutter at home. All right, so here it is. Sticky, wet sort of concoction here. Then we're going to turn our attention over to, well, before we do that, there's one other version we're going to do today. We're going to do a couple versions. We'll do a traditional korvapuusti filling, which is this that we just made. We'll put some of this over here. And then for fun, it's sometimes delightful to add in other items. We'll put some over here in this bowl, and into this one, we'll put some edible disintegrating coffee granules, and we can have a coffee break right inside our korvapuusti. There we are. We'll let that sit together and marinate just a bit. Bowls over here. And in the meantime, let's roll out this dough. This dough that we made earlier is enough to make 8 nice long pitkopullas, the long pulla loaves or braids, which we'll do in addition to the korvapuusti. So let's divide it into 4s. 4 is always a nice number. It gives us 1 for you, 1 for a friend, and 2 for spares. Place these here. Take a drink of coffee before we get started. Okay. Again, pulla dough, because of its chemistry, we won't spend time kneading it. It's had 1 rise, and from here, we'll roll it out. Notice there's no flour on the rolling area because we want it to taste like good rich pulla. We'll roll it out in as large of rectangle as we can. As long as possible. This is a little bit different than a French rolling pin that I'm using. More reminiscent of a Salolampi rolling pin, but not quite that style either. Again, a generous gift from a donor here at Salolampi. And now we'll just use kind of a stretching technique to stretch it out. So kind of a pull and a stretch, attaching it to the table as we go. As rectangular as possible, so we get a uniform sort of korvapuusti. We must make these in America because of course we can't buy them in the freezer section like Finns are able to. So it's important for us to have efficient ways to keep creating these delicious snacks. All right, so it's nice and thin. We'll add some filling to this. We'll start with the original. About this much. Spread around. Keeping a space so we can seal the tops. Or this is the top for me right now. And the filling can just be appropriately spread. We'll roll this up. And there's no need to cover it with butter because of course we've already put the butter in to be incorporated with the insides. My mouth is watering. This will be lovely to share with friends. Now this should look just like a normal sort of roll that any sort of culture might enjoy. Here comes the unique Finnish part of the korvapuusti. The part where we cut it differently. So on the end, we're going to cut it at an angle and another angle. Always the angle. Always the angle. Always the angle. And finally we'll take one more and we'll put it on the pan. And over here with something flat. Put it here on the pan. And then we'll flatten all the way down to the pan with a very hard smoosh to get a nice crease to match the sides. Let's try another one. All the way down with a hard smoosh to the bottom of the pan. Korvapuusti. And we'll finish this pan and then we'll do some long Pulla loaves. All right, the super traditional Pulla, the long Pulla loaf, is going to be next. So we're going to divide this Pulla without kneading it, just taking it straight out of the bowl, dividing it into its 4 parts earlier. We're going to divide this one into 3 parts, just a traditional 3-part braid. Although of course you can braid as many parts as you want, as even as possible. We're going to roll it out into long sections. Long sections like this, gently. There we are. We'll put this thick end on this side. It's nice to be able to begin braiding in the middle of this so that you can go back and fix the other end, or at least to look like a uniform braid. You braid this up. If you know how to braid backwards, great for you. I usually switch it around so that I can see what I'm doing. And finish the braid off. Tuck in the ends. Make it look just right. There we are. I'll transfer this to the pan, let it rise until about double, and then we'll put some egg wash on top, put some pearl sugar on it, and then bake it off at about 325 until the internal temperature is about 185 or 190. About 20 minutes, 25 minutes. We hope that you join us soon at Salolampi, both to enjoy these delicious morsels, but also to make this with us. We also fully recognize there are multiple ways of making Pulla and creating new concoctions with Pulla, and we look forward to discovering those with you together here at Salolampi.
Tynän pulla tuli